What's up, Dragon Brood? All right, we just got done with the live stream, I guess, of the New Capenna reveals, talking about the set, giving some world building stuff, but most importantly, what everybody wants to know, we got a lot of previews. I think we got like, I don't know, 14 preview cards, or actually I guess more than that, but either way, we're going to talk about cards. We're going to go in depth a little bit. Remember that all of these are kind of just like first impressions because we literally just learned about the cards a few minutes ago. The thing is, let's go in, explore, talk about where we think these cards are going to fit. Are they good? Are they bad? How do we feel about them? Initial reactions, all that. But let's hop into it and look at some new Capenna preview cards. All right, I think these are going to be in reverse order from when they were actually shown on camera. But either way, we're starting here with the Couriers briefcase. This is a colorless and a green for an artifact treasure. It comes into play, it creates a 1/1 green and white citizen creature token. Sacrifice it for a mana because it is a treasure, and then you can spend all 5 color mana, sacrifice it, draw 3 cards, which is cool because you're kind of getting the things out of the briefcase, which is neat and flavor. And this is actually kind of backwards of a innkeeper that we've been playing with, right? You make the 1/1 that makes the treasure. In this case, you make the treasure that makes the 1/1. So I don't know, is this an outkeeper? Maybe, but this is actually an okay card. I don't think you particularly want to play this in a lot of decks, but it does make a creature that, if you need a token, could matter. It also produces any color. So in limited, I think this card actually has a little more room because it does create a blocker when it's done and also ramps you, which is pretty sweet. But we'll see. This is the type of card that could sneakily find its home into some things. I don't think it's top of mind, something you want for a deck, but definitely something that we can consider finding its way into some things. All right, light them up. It is a colorless and a red. Sorcery, Casualty 2. As you cast it, you can sacrifice a creature with power 2 or greater, so you can copy it. Light 'em up, it deals 2 damage to target creature or planeswalker. Now, we have a lot of variations of things that deal 2 or 3 damage or whatever to creatures or planeswalkers and don't actually hit opponents. That part doesn't bother me so much with this card. The 2 issues I have, though, is we do have a fair amount of cards that deal 2 or 4 or whatever damage for 1 mana. So I'm not sure where this would fit in, other than potentially getting to copy it sometimes, which is kind of cool. However, it's a sorcery. Why is it not an instant? Like, I get that you get to copy it, but the most you would get to do for 2 mana, sacrifice the thing, deal 4 damage. Like, that doesn't seem that unreal, especially since it can't go upstairs. So for this, I would felt it either should have been instant, fine, or leave it as a sorcery, but let you also hit the opponent. Like, that would probably be okay. But as it is, this is a card I don't think find much play. Again, if you just need some simple removal and limited, it's probably fine. But otherwise, I don't think it has any constructed real viability. All right, Incriminate. It's a colorless and a black for a sorcery. Choose 2 target creatures controlled by the same player. That player sacrifices one of them. This is another one. I don't understand why it's a sorcery. Like, I mean, I get it. You could create some weird situations if it's an instant, but truthfully, your opponent's getting to choose what creature to keep. So why get a disadvantage of having to do it on my turn and my opponent chooses the outcome? And like, I mean, I don't even know if I play this in limited for anything. Like, probably, but I'm not excited about it if I'm playing it. So yeah, this one didn't really hit. Now, flavor-wise, it's sweet. Even in the artwork, you can see like the demon crime lord guy. Like, that's all cool. No problem with any of that. I think that part's great. Just the actual mechanics of the card, I'm not a fan of. Of course, we have an offer you can't refuse. I think the lord guy that was on also said they did actually get. I think he said they were working on Cement's shoes that he believes actually made it, and I think Swim with the Fishes. Also, he said he thinks made it through and has a card. So either way, kind of be expected. But this card's actually very interesting. It's an instance for 1 blue, counter target spell. Its controller creates 2 treasure tokens. Now, why it's interesting is that you kind of have to choose if you want to stop something early from your opponent by ramping them up, but they don't get the thing they want. However, it does have a small little twist that you can actually counter your own things. So if you have a 0 or 1 mana thing you want to counter, to set yourself up to have 4 or 5 mana on the following turn, maybe, not saying you would, but I mean, it's a way to ramp yourself in blue, which is not something you really get. So, meh. I mean, is it worth spending the card? Like, is it worth 2 for zero for twoing. I don't know how that works when you're counting your own stuff, but like, is it worth losing your own 2 cards to potentially get a devastating situation the next turn? Like, maybe is the answer right now, but I don't think most people are going to use it that way. I just think it's cool that the option exists, you know. So anyway, yeah, this might be one of the better uncommons in the set. I'll also be interested to see if this is the type of card that gets used in older formats or not, because giving somebody 2 mana on an early turn could be kind of scary. So we'll see, but it's a really cool card. All right, Rumorgatherer. Colorless, white for a 2/1 creature elf wizard. Has Alliance. When another creature enters the battlefield under your control, you scry 1. If it's the second time this ability has resolved this turn, draw a card instead. Okay, there's a lot going on with this card to talk about. First, it's a white elf, which we don't really get, so that's kind of cool. It's also card drawing in white, also really cool. And this says whenever another creature, not non-token creature. So if you have a creature, like we've seen on some other cards already, like comes into play, produces a token, whatever, well, it's very possible that this could come into play, draw a card. Like, you'd come into play, scry, and then draw a card. You know, that's actually pretty powerful to have on there. Now, it is a 3 mana 2/1, so it's not like it's going to blow the doors off anything. It does happen to be a wizard as well. I'm not sure how important that'll be, but yeah, I kind of dig what's going on here. This is a cool card. Now, does it see play everywhere? I don't know. The 3 mana cost for a 2/1 is a little tough, but I could see this being a very useful card in Commander, especially since if you have anything that's making tokens or whatever, could be super awesome with this. But yeah, this card I think has potential in a few spots. I'm not going to go too hard on the lands. This is kind of just a basic cycle of lands, or actually a cycle of lands at common. I should be more specific. But either way, Racer's Ring, there's 4 others in the friendly colors, so that's fine. But each of them comes into play tapped. You tap for either of the 2 colors, and then the 2 colors plus 2 mana, so 4 total, to sacrifice it and draw a card. This actually is pretty sweet. I mean, this is better than the lands that just come into play tapped, don't do anything. And honestly, I think they're better than the ones that come into play tapped and draw a card. But this has some other implications. Like, one, for limited, this is sweet because you can now draft cards that are just going to let you draw extra cards. So these end up being lands that you could just get rid of late in the game when you no longer need them. That is super exciting. But also, if you play Pauper, well, here's some lands you can play now that also let you draw cards. So I'm down with that too. Like, these will have some value in some. Now, not a crazy, I mean, you know, but they might be more than just the 5-cent commons. They might be 25 cents, 50 cents. But these are the actual, like, this is a good use of the common slot. Like, I don't know if they're quite good enough to make it into standard, except for maybe the blue-black and the blue-white ones, because those decks tend to be slower anyway. And having a land that lets you draw a card could be pretty nice. But who knows? Maybe a couple of these just slip into some deck lists. I could see it. Like, having a land just going to let you draw for free is actually pretty cool. I'm into it. I say draw for free. It does have a mana cost, but no opportunity cost because it doesn't take up space in your deck. So this is actually, I'm into it. I'm into it. Now, I don't think this one was previewed today, but I think it was already out there, so I'm just going to cover all of them that we have so far. I'm just going to keep going here. So we have Strangle, which is 1 red, sorcery, deals 3 damage to target creature or planeswalker. Yeah, this is fine. Like, and this kind of comes back to what I was talking about with the other one, with the zap finger guns or whatever. It deals 3 to target creature or planeswalker, and it only costs 1. So, like, do I really want to play one that costs 2 also at sorcery speed just because it can potentially be copied every once in a while? Like, probably not. This is likely to be the one that gets played more often if you're going to play it, but even then, it doesn't go upstairs, so you still already have, like, your play with fires and stuff like that. But for limited play, good removal card. Does it make constructed play? We'll have to see. Murder. Colorless black. Instant speed, destroy a creature. This has existed before, so this has been a reprint. This is the 3rd time, maybe, that this has been reprinted in a set. So yeah, we've seen this a few times. But yeah, decent card. All right, Chromecast. 3 colorless, 3/2. When Chromecast enters the battlefield, scry 1. So this is just like a fine card. Like, it's a good filler for limited play. I think this is fine. A 3 mana 3/2 that scries. totally reasonable. I don't think it finds a home in Constructed, really. There's a few artifact-based decks that might consider something like this, but not really. Because of the cost, I don't think you get enough for the Constructed efficiency. But creepy art, I'll give it that. But yeah, more of a limited card than anything. Now, this was one of the new ones, Obnixilis. It's Casualty X. Copy the copy isn't legendary and has a starting loyalty X. As you cast this spell, you may sacrifice a creature with power X. When you do, copy this spell, the copy becomes a token. Yeah, such a crazy situation there. But yeah, this is actually a pretty strong ability that you can copy stuff and then have it become a token. Like this is pretty strong. Pretty strong. We'll see where this leads, but I feel like there's a lot of potential with this. But +1, each opponent sacrifices or loses 2 life unless they discard a card. If you control a demon or devil, you gain 2 life, which is going to be several. -2, create a 1/1 red devil creature token that, when this dies, deals damage to your target. And -7, player draws 7 cards or loses 7 life. I think the most obvious place people are going to try to put this is going to be in the like red-black sacrifice decks that already exist. And that sort of makes sense. I mean, it's a cheap Planeswalker. It's only 3 mana. It's going to come into play, immediately become a 3 or 4 loyalty. So it's actually pretty cool, and cost your opponent 2 life because they'll probably just discard a card at that step. I mean, is this something you could supplement various discard decks with? Maybe. I mean, we did have a Rakdos sacrifice deck we put up last week, maybe the week before. So that's something that you could look at this type of card being added into. But yeah, the as long as you cast a spell, you may sacrifice a creature with power X. When you do, copy the spell. So that's kind of interesting too. Yeah, there's a lot going on with this card. I don't know how to properly gauge this one because it's so unique, but I'm going to say this has potential to be very good. I don't know the exact home. I think there's a few different builds that could play it, but even off the top of my head, there's already 3-4 ideas like swirling around, so I'm sure there's even more than that. But yeah, at first blush, I think this is a very good card. Cut the Profits. X black sorcery. Casualty 3. As you cast this spell, you can sacrifice a creature with power 3 or greater. When you do, you copy the spell. You draw X cards and you lose X life. Don't know how much I want to copy that, but yeah, just straight up like, hey, I'm going to pay 5 and draw 3, lose 3. Yeah, this card's definitely going to get played in some lists for sure. Especially if you're playing something like Esper where you have just a little bit of way to gain some life and then you don't care so much about losing life. This could be pretty good. All right, we got a Getaway Car. 3 colorless, 4/3 haste. Whenever Getaway Car attacks or blocks, return up to 1 target creature that crewed this to its owner's hand. Crew 1. So it's pretty cool. It's a 4/3 vehicle with haste for 3. And it's only crew of 1. So it's gonna be very easy to crew. And then at the end of the turn, you return 1 to, or actually when attacks or blocks, you return a thing to your hand, which is actually pretty sweet because anything you have that has an enter the battlefield effect, say like the artifact creature that when it comes into play taps a thing, that's actually kind of hot, right? So next turn, you can recast it, tap a potential blocker, crew the Getaway Car, and attack for 4. So stuff like that could end up being pretty sweet with this. So some of those vehicle decks might come back and look at a card like this. Mysterious Limousine. This was previewed today as well. 3 white, 4/4. When it enters the battlefield, you exile a thing until this leaves play. Or actually when it enters the battlefield or attacks. So every time it attacks, you could swap something out of the Limousine if you want to, which is also kind of cool. I like this because sometimes early on, you take a thing that could be a threat later, they play a better thing, it's like, cool, I'll attack and I'll steal that thing. And this is also a 4/4, so it's not a small body, it only crews for 2, which is pretty neat. So yeah, I'm into this card. Now, how powerful is it? I don't know quite yet, but it actually is a pretty sweet card. It may be a little too expensive to play at 5 mana, but I at least like the concept behind it. Urbrass, Cabaret Prater, 3 colorless, red, 4/4 legendary creature for Phyrexian Prater with haste. At the beginning of your upkeep, exile the top card of your library. You may play it this turn. At the beginning of each opponent's upkeep, the next time they would draw a card this turn, instead they exile the top of their library and they may play that this turn. Now, here's something interesting about this. I think people are going to read this and not understand that both of these halves are not the same. Like, the one for you is an extra card. So you exile the top card of your library, and you get to still play that and get your normal draw step. For the opponent, instead of them getting a draw step, they're going to exile a card and then be able to play that until end of turn. So that basically means there's to be something they can play then, or they lose the ability to use that card. So very big difference. Now, does that make this card much better or worse? I don't know, but I do like the fact that it basically can keep your opponent from getting extra cards, which is kind of, or at least forces their hand. Like, they have to do stuff on their turn with the card they just got, or it's a use it or lose it situation. So that's actually pretty sweet. The artwork's pretty creepy and cool. I'm kind of into this. Yeah, I'm probably going to try to play this in a couple of lists. Here's another interesting one, GalaGreeters. It's a colorless and a green for a 1/1 elf druid alliance. When another creature enters the battlefield under your control, choose one that hasn't been chosen this turn. You can either put a +1/+1 counter on GalaGreeters, you can create a tapped treasure, or you can gain 2 life. Now, I don't know where this totally lives. I mean, green or elves as a whole still need some help to even be remotely viable in standard right now. Is this the type of card we're looking for? Maybe, maybe not. I mean, the fact that you can play it along with other elves that are making tokens and stuff, so it's possible that you get to choose, like, hey, we'll put a counter on this and we'll get a treasure, ramp you up to where you can do something crazy later, maybe. It's an interesting card, if nothing else. How good it is, I think, is questionable at rare, but maybe I'm undervaluing it currently. Elspeth Resplendent, 3 colorless, white, for 5 loyalty planeswalker. For +1, you choose up to 1 target creature, put a +1/+1 counter, and a counter from among flying, first strike, lifelink, or vigilance on it, which is very cool for a +1. -3, look at the top 7 cards of your library. You put a permanent mana card with mana value 3 or less for among them onto the battlefield with a shield counter, and shield is basically, if it would be destroyed, you could remove the shield counter instead. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. -7, create 5 3/3 angel creature tokens with flying. Making 3 angels, or making 5 angels, nice. Not the craziest ultimate we've ever seen. The +1 is actually pretty cool and unique that you get to +1 a creature as well, put a permanent counter, plus something of either flying, first strike, lifelink, whatever, which could be pretty important. The question I have here, though, is what decks does this fit in, right? We don't necessarily have anything currently that just really wants this. And even if they do they want it more than the Wandering Emperor? I think is the issue here. But that still remains to be seen. Maybe this fits into some rampy aggro type build. That's possible. But yeah, conceptually very cool. Just does it have a home? I don't know. Halo Fountain. 2 colors and a white. Artifact. You can pay a white, tap it, untap target, untap a tapped creature you control. Create a 1/1 green and white citizen creature token. You can pay 2 and tap it, untap 2 creatures you control to draw a card, or you can pay 5 white and tap it, untap 15 tap creatures you control, and you win the game. So if you want an alternate win condition card, this is pretty sweet. Very difficult to do, obviously, as you got to get 15 creatures. Somehow have not killed your opponent with the 15 creatures, but you get 15 creatures, you get to untap them all, and then you win. Now, it also says 15 tapped creatures, which would mean you would need some number of creatures that you somehow attacked your opponent with, most likely, did not kill them, and then whatever remains you're able to untap. I guess technically this can be used as instant speed, so I guess you could attack with all 15 things, and then during your declare attacker step or whatever, pay the 5 and untap everything. So there you go. That's possible. Very difficult. It's cool, though, that it does give you a way to draw cards and create more creatures, which I like. So that's actually pretty cool. Very unique and different card. Not sure where it fits. Might be fun in some various commander builds just from the drawing and the creature production. But yeah, another white card that draws cards. So there you go. Wiretapping. This is really expensive. It's a 5 mana enchantment. Whenever you draw your first card during each of your draw steps, draw a card. Then, if you have 9 or more cards in your hand, you may play the exiled card without paying its mana cost. So, basically, whenever you draw your first card, each draw step, draw a card. So, basically, you get to draw an extra card for 5 mana, which is, fine. But mostly, this is about having Hideaway, which means you're going to see this on some other cards in the set, which is pretty cool. But yeah, you put this under there, you look at the card, you tuck a card, and then whenever you hit your trigger, in this case, if you have 9 cards after using this ability, then you get to play the card for free. So it's pretty cool. People in Commander have been using Hideaway for years. This goes all the way back to Lorwyn. Super exciting that it's at least brought back in a set that it makes sense. So that's cool. All right, Devilish Valet, 2 colorless and a red for a 1/3, trample, haste, alliance. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, double Devilish Valet's power until end of turn. Notice that it doesn't say when a non-token creature. So if you have a thing that makes 3 token creatures or whatever, this thing's going to go to 2 to 4 to 8. Right? And be ready to attack as an 8/3 trampling hasty thing. So this has potential to do some big things and can really end the turns. Yeah, I'm kind of into this card. It's pretty fun. It's different. I like what it's bringing to the table. Jaxus the Troublemaker. It's 3 colorless and a red for a 2/3 human warrior legendary creature. You can pay a red and tap it, discard a card. Creature create a token that's a copy of another target creature you control. It gains haste, and when this creature dies, draw a card. You sacrifice it at the beginning of the next end step. Activate only as a sorcery. And then it has an ability called Blitz, which is going to be on several cards. Blitz here is a colorless and a red. If you cast this card for its Blitz cost, it gains haste, and then when it dies, draw a card and sacrifice it at the beginning of the next end step. Now, this is actually pretty powerful because normally when you make copies of things, they just go away. In this case, you get to get a card whenever the copy goes away, which is kind of like a way of basically saying if the board's blocked up, well, then I'll just copy a creature and draw a card for the turn, right? So that's actually pretty damn cool. The Blitz thing, don't know how powerful it is, but just being able to get a hasty creature that you might need, and you get to replace it and get a card, it's not too bad. So this could find a home in a few decks, honestly. This is a very interesting card. I'm into it. Zeatora the Incinerator. 6 mana, 3 colorless, red, black, green, flying, demon dragon, 6/6. At the beginning of your end step, you may sacrifice another creature. When you do, Zeatora the Incinerator deals damage equal to that creature's power to any target, and you create 3 treasure tokens. Yeah, this is crazy ramp ability. Like, if you could ramp this out, like, say you get this on turn 4, and you're getting to sacrifice those, like, mana creatures or other stuff that got you there, and you're getting to deal damage and make treasure, like, this card has potential to be a nuisance. Like, this could be a problem. I don't think it's busted in any way, but could be very good. A little chat. Colorless and a blue, instant. And this is where we found out about Casualty the first time on the stream. As you cast a spell, you may sacrifice a creature, power 1 or greater. If you do, copy the spell. You look at the top 2 cards of your library, put one into your hand, the other on the bottom of the library. This is cool because Casualty 1 means you can just sacrifice tokens for the most part. There's a few random O1s, but you know what I mean. Mostly, you can sacrifice a token and not care, and that's pretty cool. Getting to copy this, especially late in the game, could be powerful, but it is just a quality instant, to just make your draws better. If you want to include this, I don't know if it's better than some of the 1 mana things we have, but the ability to copy it is actually pretty nice. Ledger Shredder, because you got to have somebody in the illegal organization cooking the books, I guess. I guess just destroying the books. Colorless and a blue for a 1/3 flying bird advisor. When a player casts their second spell each turn, Ledger Shredder connives. You draw a card and then discard a card. If you discard a non-land card, put the counter on this card. The thing that's neat about this is it's a 1/3 for 2, which is, and flies, so that's fair. Whenever a player casts their second spell each turn, that's the part I'm kind of hung up on here, though. I'm not sure how frequent that's going to come up. Because, I guess you're playing with other things with connive, but you're also trying to, like, discard spells that you're not planning on playing. So it's a little tough. I don't know how good this card. I feel like this card is way better than my initial feelings want to give it credit for. Right now, I'm giving it mediocre marks, but I would not be surprised if this turns out to be fantastic. All right, this was also the first time we found out about Shield on the stream. Disciplined Duelist, a green, a white, and a blue for a 2/1 double strike, which is pretty awesome. Disciplined Duelist enters the battlefield with a shield counter on it. If it would be dealt damage or destroyed, remove a shield counter from it instead. And that is important because it says deal damage or destroy it. So it doesn't even say lethal damage. So if you have like a 4/4 with shield and they just take damage, well, you got to remove the shield. So that's a little bit disappointing, but still pretty strong ability. Falco Pact, or I guess full name is Falco Spara Pact Weaver. Legendary creature, bird demon for a colorless green, white, blue, 3/3. When it enters the battlefield, it gets a shield counter. You can look at the top card of your library at any time. You can cast spells from the top of your library by removing a counter from a creature you control in addition to paying its other costs. So it doesn't say shield counter, just from a counter from anything will let you play stuff off the top of your library. Now, is that necessarily worth it for 4 mana? The fact that you're getting a 3/3, it flies, it tramples, and you can play stuff, or at least know what's on top of your library all the time, it could be worth it for 4 mana. Broker's Charms. Green, blue, white. Choose one. Target creature you control gets +1/+0 until end of turn. It deals damage equal to its power to target creature or planeswalker opponent controls. Destroy target enchantment. Draw 2 cards. Yeah, this is fine. You get a fight spell, so you get basically a removal spell. Get to destroy an enchantment or draw 2 cards. Like, I'm down with it. I think all the charms are actually reasonable. Speaking of which, we have Riveteer's Charm, black, red, green. Target opponent, or choose one. Target opponent sacrifices a creature or planeswalker they control with the highest mana value among things they control. So basically like Soul Shatter, if you like playing that card. Exile the top 3 cards of your library until in your next end step you may play those cards. That's just good in general. And exile target player's graveyard. So I think this one's good on the first 2 abilities. I think the third one's not so much, depending on what you're playing against. But if we're running into, let's say because of Connive, people are filling up their graveyards and then wanting to do stuff, maybe this actually has some uses. But don't forget, these can also be played in older formats as well. Rafine, Scheming Seer for a white, blue, black, 1/4, flying with ward 1, which makes it a little harder to kill. Whenever you attack, target attacking creature connives X, where X is the number of attacking creatures. And you draw and discard and put +1/+1 counters on the creature for each non-land card discarded this way. 3 mana, 1/4, not the best. It does fly and have ward 1, which makes it then a bit more exciting. And if you're going the creature route with this, then you do get to draw and discard and make the creature bigger. The only gripe I have is that because of the colors that it's in, you're not often going to be attacking with a lot of things. So I feel like to play this, you are building a new type of deck in these colors. And that's not a bad thing. I just don't know if it fits current builds. But yeah, could be pretty neat. Lord Xander, 4 colorless, blue, black, red, 6/6, vampire, demon, noble. When it enters the battlefield, target opponent discards half their cards in their hand, rounded down. When it attacks, defending player mills half their library, rounded down. When it dies, target opponent sacrifices half their permanents, rounded down. There's been a lot of discourse on this card. It's kind of how I knew it existed already. It's fine. It costs 7, so you're not going to do too much with it. It makes a good reanimator target, which is pretty sweet. Everything is rounded down, so there are some times you're not going to really get a lot of value out of it. But yeah, powerful card, really cool on flavor, cool visual. Don't know if it's a fun card people are going to want to play against, because it's going to be the type of card that, like, if somebody's playing it, they have no good intentions at all while they're playing it. But yeah, overall, I think it's still a powerful card if you put it in the right scenarios, but it is going to be hard to get into play. Jetmire, Nexus of Revels, colorless, red, green, white. Legendary Cat Demon, 5/4. Creatures you control get +1/+0 and have vigilance as long as you control 3 or more creatures. Creatures you control get +1 and have trample as long as you control 6 or more creatures. Creatures you control also get +1/+0 and have double strike as long as you control 9 or more creatures. So technically, if you control 9 creatures, you get +3/+0, have vigilance, have trample, and have double strike. Very hard to do, but it is a 5/4 for 4, which we don't mind. And you're going to get usually the first ability where your creatures get +1 in vigilance, because that's not too hard to do. Anything else beyond that is actually just a cool bonus. But yeah, I kind of like this card. Cabaret Charm, red, green, white. Choose one. Cabaret Charms deals damage equal to the number of creatures you control to target creature or planeswalker. That's always iffy. Creatures you control get +1/+1 and gain trample until end of turn. This has potential to be very good. Create 2 1/1 green and white citizen creature tokens. I would normally say that's just okay, but because of this set and having the alliance ability and having things that want you to have more creatures, and the fact that you can get creatures at instant speed, I think the actual third ability is pretty good and might get used quite a lot in, we'll call, Naya/Cabaret builds. Obscura Charm. White, blue, black, instant, choose one, return target multicolor permanent card with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. That's probably going to be very good. Counter target instant or sorcery spell, obviously good. Destroy target creature or planeswalker with mana value 3 or less. I would normally say just solid, because you're mostly killing creatures, but we are going to have a couple of 3 mana value planeswalkers that you could kill as well. So yeah, this one's another one that all 3 parts I think are pretty solid. Maestro Charm, blue, black, red. Choose one, look at the top. 5 cards of your library, put one of those into your hand and the rest on the bottom. Solid, getting a look at 5 cards. Each opponent loses 3 and you gain 3. Maestro's Charm deals 5 damage to target creature or planeswalker. So 5 to a creature or planeswalker is basically a removal card, so that's pretty sweet. The lose 3, gain 3 is, it's alright, but you do get to do it at instant speed, which is pretty sweet, and sometimes that might still kill the opponent. I like 2 out of 3 on this one a lot. The third one is at least serviceable. We saw this one get previewed a couple weeks back, I think. Broker's Ascendancy, blue, white, green. Enchantment. At the beginning of your end step, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control and a loyalty counter on each planeswalker you control. This is just good. I mean, if this just sits there, your opponent, this is Luminarch Aspirant for every creature every turn. Right? Like, yeah, this card's just going to be annoying. Nothing much to talk about here, just to mention, we did get the 3 color lands. They count as all 3 basic types. We got 5 of them to fit the different groups, families, and they all cycle for 3 mana. So, hey, there you go. Just something to know that exists. These will be worth something in paper for sure. Everybody's going to be playing these. Oh my gosh, all right, that took longer than I thought. There were more cards than I realized we'd already previewed. But anyway, we got them all out. Let me know what you think. What are your favorites so far? What are you looking forward to building around? I think there's several things here I would use, so I'm actually excited about that because that means we have a lot to make content with. But yeah, this was cool. Thanks for users that came by and hung out during the live stream. That live stream should still be available if you want to see it. But yeah, this was fun. Let's see what the rest of the set brings. We're going to start seeing previews pretty hot and heavy the next few days, and I'll try to do the videos to keep up. So if you haven't subscribed, you might want to do so just to make sure you don't miss anything. And remember to choose all notifications when you hit that notification bell to make sure you get all the videos. But yeah, otherwise, like, subscribe, share, all that good stuff. That's all I have for you for now. We'll see you next time.